which is beliefs as self-fulfilling prophecies. This, I must say, this topic ignited my imagination when I was a kid, when I thought about it, when I was an athlete. And that's when I understood the power of the mind. And that's what piqued my interest in psychology. And I want to start with a story, a specific story that in many ways I can see as the first story, psychological story that I heard, or the story that I heard that brought home to me the message of how important psychology is to well-being and to success. And success as a 14-year-old squash player was the most important thing in my life. And the story is of Roger Banister. Just so I get a show of hands, how many people have heard of Roger Banister? Okay, a handful. So, those of you who have can hear it again. Roger Banister was a runner. He ran the mile. And until 1954, running the mile in under 4 minutes was considered impossible. In fact, doctors proved that 4 minutes for the mile was the limit of human ability. Physiologists ran tests proving scientifically that the limit of human ability was running the mile in 4 minutes. You could not go below that. And runners proved, the doctors and the scientists proved that they were right, and ran the mile in 4 minutes and 2 seconds, 4 minutes and 1 second, but no runner could run the mile in under 4 minutes, ever since the mile was actually timed, or they started to time runs. It was impossible. Doctors, scientists showed, runners, athletes, the top ones in the world, proved that the doctors were right. And then came along Roger Banister. Roger Banister said, it is possible to run the 4 minutes, and in fact, I'm going to do it. Now, when he said it, he was a medical doctor at Oxford University. He was a good runner, top runner, but nowhere near the 4 minute mark. His best time was 4 minutes and 12 seconds. And of course, no one took him seriously. But Roger Banister continued to train and work hard, not harder than the rest of the runners, but as hard as the top runners in the world, and he did get better. In fact, he broke the 4 minutes and 10 seconds mark, 4 minutes and 5 seconds mark, and then he got to 4 minutes and 2 seconds and stopped, like everyone else. Could not go below the 4 minutes and 2 seconds, so he wasn't even the best runner in the world, but among the best. But he continued to say, it is possible. There is no human limitation on that. We can run the mile in under 4 minutes. And he continued to say it, continued to train, to no avail, for years. Until 1954. On the 6th of May, 1954, on his home turf at Oxford University, Roger Banister ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. Sensation. Front page news all over the world. Science defied. Doctors defied. The impossible made possible. It became known as the Dream Mile. Now listen to this. For decades, ever since the mile was timed, no one broke the 4 minute barrier. It was considered impossible. And then on the 6th of May, Roger Banister does it. 6 weeks later, John Landy, an Australian runner, runs the mile in 3 minutes, 57.9 seconds. The following year, 1955, 37 runners run the mile in under 4 minutes. 1956, over 300 runners break the 4 minute barrier. Now what happened? Was it that they suddenly started to train harder? Of course not. Was it new technologies, new shoes? It wasn't. It was the mind. Look how powerful the mind is. It wasn't the fact that they were running that time and they said, oops, we're over the speed limit, let's slow down a little bit. Not at all. They were trying their hardest, their utmost, and yet the subconscious mind limited them, prevented them from breaking that barrier that happened to be not a physical barrier as the doctors and physiologists and scientists had claimed. It was a mental barrier. And what Roger Banister did was break down the fort, the mental, psychological fort. Beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. Very often they determine how we perform, how well or how poorly we perform. They often determine how good or not so good our relationships are. They're the number one predictor of life success as well as well-being, as we'll talk about.